Hello, and welcome to the first show of Watching Washington, produced by the Brian Lamb School of Communication. Today is Friday, September 16th. I'm Ellie Akra, and here's the latest headlines from Washington, D.C. this week. Senator Lindsey Graham introduced a bill Tuesday that would ban most abortions nationwide.
We will introduce legislation, along with a lot of my colleagues, to basically get America in a position at the federal level I think is fairly consistent with the rest of the world.
In a hearing Tuesday, Senator Graham introduced the bill, which would ban abortions after 15 weeks. It would have exceptions in cases of rape, incest, or to save the life of the mother. When asked, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell declined to say if he would schedule a vote on the bill if Republicans do take control of the chamber.
I think most of the members of my conference prefer that this be dealt with at the state level.
Currently, the Democratic-controlled Senate sits at 50-50. Today, New Hampshire's Republican Senate primary has come to a close. Retired Army General Dan Bolduc defeated State Senator Chuck Morse in a tight Republican primary race. Bolduc will challenge Democratic incumbent Maggie Hassan for a chance for Republicans to flip one more seat this November. Bolduc, a far-right candidate, has supported President Trump's claims of the 2020 election being stolen. Yahoo News reported this as a win for Trump supporters and a loss for moderate Republicans. While a group linked to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell endorsed his opponent, Chuck Morse, former President Trump did not endorse Don Bolduc. As a reminder, Election Night in America will be on November 8th, 2022. The Senate has returned after the August recess, and one of the top items on their agenda will be a spending bill that must pass by September 30th to avoid a government shutdown.
This process, of course, needs to be bipartisan. Democrats are going to work in good faith to avoid even a hint of a shutdown, and it is my expectation that our Republican colleagues will do the same.
The White House requested that Congress include $47 billion in emergency funding with the bill toward Ukraine aid, COVID-19, and monkeypox response. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said the key to getting this bill passed is for it to be as clean as possible, but did not reject the idea of including Ukraine aid in the bill. The funeral for Queen Elizabeth II will be held Monday, September 19th. Buckingham Palace invited President Biden and the First Lady to attend. But according to CNN, Biden was not invited to bring a delegation of other U.S. leaders with him. The White House announced that President Biden did formally accept the invitation. He will attend the funeral with First Lady Jill Biden. Queen Elizabeth II will lie in state at Westminster Hall until Saturday. Each week, we plan to bring you an in-depth interview. This week, Gabriella Chu introduces us to our special guest.
Thank you, Ellie. And as she said, we have a special guest with us today, the namesake of the Lamb School of Communication and founder of C-SPAN, Brian Lamb. My first question, why did you start C-SPAN?
I got involved in this whole project primarily because I grew up in Lafayette, Indiana, where there was not very much information. There was some, but there wasn't much. And I went into the Navy. I got to Washington the last 2 years of my Navy time, 4 years. And it was frustrating because you only got a very limited amount of information on television. 30 minutes at night, that was it. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, I actually got 15 minutes at night. So it's just been a constant evolution. And more than anything, Gabriella, technology changed. And when technology changes, things happen. Mm-hmm. And that's, we've lived through another revolution that you're in charge of now. And that's because technology changed with the internet.
Mm-hmm. And so, did you always see yourself like doing this type of work, or was it like when you got into the Navy and when you started doing all that with like public affairs that you started thinking about, starting this cable company, this cable network?
I started at Jefferson High School in Lafayette. Mm-hmm. We used to do a program called Bronco Highlights, which is 5 minutes on the local radio station. It was a big deal to us at the time. We had to write the scripts and all that stuff. Then I did I was a disc jockey at WASK Radio, but then I ended up doing a television show for a year. Really amazing television show that had one camera, black and white. I hosted it. I sold the advertising. I built the sets. I begged high school kids to come be dancers on this program. Did end up on a Friday afternoon one time with nobody there. So, I mean, my history is coming from a chance in Lafayette, at Purdue, at Jeff High School, to do everything, try everything, just like you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, I mean, to answer your question, I've always wanted to be in this business, always.
Yeah. And so when did you start seeing the beginnings of creating C-SPAN?
The domestic satellite system went up in one was up in 74, the other's in 1975. But before then, and this is going to be technical gibberish, the microwave systems that were built around the country allowed us to get beyond the networks, the big networks. And again, it goes back to technology. It really changed big time when the satellite went up. HBO was the first television channel to go on the new satellite for cable. And it was in that time frame, and HBO was in 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. We started in 79. So it was during that period that I was out of the service by then, and I was writing for a living for a cable vision magazine. And that's when it all kind of unfolded. And I was excited, interested, wanted to be a part of change, and just jumped in, even though I didn't know what I was doing.
And so, you know, you were talking about how you only had like 15, 30 minutes of television, you know, and you want to keep people informed. So why do you think that it is important to keep citizens informed on their government?
It's interesting because I think it's important. I'm not sure the citizenry does. After I've been doing this for 43 years, and we're going through another huge mix. And folks that are in college today, and I don't blame them, I wouldn't be doing this either, are not watching C-SPAN at night or in the daytime. The advantage that we have because of Professor Browning at Purdue, when he started the archive, it means that anytime you want to find out what's going on, more than a soundbite, you can come to us kind of like on demand. And that's probably the most important thing we've done, is have all this stuff, 78,000 hours of history available to the population at large, free of charge. You know, this is an entertainment society. First and foremost, it's a sports society. The biggest money in this country in entertainment goes to sports, and then movies, and television dramas, all in that category. The last thing most people think of when they get up every day is, God, can I watch C-SPAN all day? That'll really fire me up. But we've kept the cost way down. You have to. We don't make money for anybody. We're a part of an industry that, by the way, is now losing customers instead of gaining customers, the cable business. I can ramble on about this forever, but it's I've never been a Pollyanna about how much people want this, as much as it would be nice to have there when you're ready to watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, you know, you've been in this business, you've been doing this for, you know, you said like 40 years, over 40 years. And so can you talk about, you know, the change in Washington politics and, you know, the polarization of the environment or the overall atmosphere, like within the last 5 to 10 years?
People are always looking around for who to blame for the polarization.
Mm-hmm.
They like to blame television. It's not television. Television is part of it because politicians love television coverage, and it's a money, power. Being a member of Congress or the Senate, you get a lot of attention, either in your state, in your district, or on national television. And the Republicans, this is my view, were very frustrated when we started back in 1979. They hadn't been in power forever. And so they saw television as an opportunity to sell their case to the public. And the Republicans took over in the House in 1995. Took them a long time to get there. And so then the country in politics during my lifetime became very divided around the fact that both sides want the power. Both sides want the money. Both sides want, a lot of these politicians have now, they get out of Congress and go into television. It's kind of a weird, for me, it's a weird thing that's changed dramatically from the time I was at Purdue. But it's not any more complicated than that. And then, of course, when you have personalities in politics that stick the needle in people like Donald Trump does, people react. And so it's not the most divided time in our history. People think it is. How many people died in Civil War, Americans? I think we lost 400,000 Americans in the Civil War. At least, maybe it was it's more like 700,000. That was divided when states went out of the Union. But we're here, you're here. In your lifetime, my guess is it'll change some based on the different kinds of personalities that come along and what the public wants in their leaders.
And I know that, like President Biden has talked about, democracy kind of being at a crucial stance. I know you said that you don't feel like it is as divided, but like, what are your thoughts on him, talking about that?
First of all, we're not a democracy. And it's frustrating when you study this stuff. We are a republic, and people that they used it, Washington Post, I've got sitting here, as democracy dies in darkness. We don't vote directly for our president or our vice president. Actually, the only elected official nationally is a member of the House of Representatives. Senate's directly elected, but if they happen to leave office or die in office, the governor then appoints the next person to get in that slot. They can't appoint the House of Representatives member. That's where the democracy is. I don't think democracy is threatened. Who am I? The president can say anything he wants to, but we kick around that word democracy a lot more than, in my opinion, again, than I think is necessary. But you always, with a politician, have to keep in mind what they're doing for their own good, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
And so, like with this class, like we're covering the midterm elections, and I was just kind of wondering, like, what are your thoughts on the midterm election and how important do you think it is?
You won't know how important it is until it's over. Example, if the House goes Republican, that's it for Joe Biden's agenda for the rest of his term. They won't give him anything. They'll investigate him. They'll have hearings. They'll do the same thing to him that his party is doing to the Republicans. If the Democrats keep it, that will be an unknown, but he will still be able to push things through, especially if they pick up a member or two in the Senate. They won't have to worry about the tie. But in almost every year in modern times, the House goes to the other party in power. So it's very important or not. Let's put it that way. If it's status quo continues, it will change. Actually, my guess, I'm just guessing about this. Depending on when Donald Trump announces for president, if he waits till after the election, and if the Republicans lose, he may not run, because that's a signal to him that maybe they don't want him again. So it's, of course, every election is important. And I think it's great that you all are getting involved in it. And I think you'll learn a lot by paying closer attention to it than the average person does. Because as you probably know, the voting goes way down in the off-year elections. If, for instance, 64% voted for president last time, I think you might get 36% vote for the local races. Here in the District of Columbia, which is 85% something percent Democrat, you had almost no turnout for any of these elections. You know, by the way, doesn't mean anything to anybody, but when George Washington ran for president the first time around, he only got 26,000 votes. That's all that was voting back in those days. So that part of it's changed. Watching the numbers, and you know, only men, white men could vote back in those days. Now women are getting really involved. It's time. They're involved in television. They're involved in running. There's 100 and some members over there in the House, women. And when I got here, there was one woman in the Senate. I think it's now 22 or 23. So it's a different world, and it's great. I think the change is terrific.
Yeah. But what do you think that viewers can get from, you know, watching C-SPAN versus other major media outlets?
Well, I'll tell you the way I watch it. It's haphazard. And if you put on your phones our app, whenever anything's going on, wherever you are, you can call it up. On your computer, you can call up anything in the archive. It's just haphazard. If you're interested in politics and you get used to coming to us, we have 3 channels and a radio station. So we have, and then now we're doing all kinds of podcasting and everything. You just have to keep dipping in to see what you're interested in. You will learn a lot more in-depth information watching us than anywhere else, because the rest aren't in the same business. They're in the business of making money. And in order to make money, they have to keep an audience. And in order to keep an audience, they have to entertain. And in order to entertain, they aren't going to give you a 3-hour hearing unless it has Trump involved. And they have made billions off of Donald Trump. And these January 6th hearings they're all covering, it's really questionable why every network has to cover those. It's unusual. When I was growing up in this town, people here would beg the networks to cover these hearings, and nobody would pay any attention to any of them unless they had pizzazz. And these hearings in the eyes of all these networks have pizzazz. We're there every day, so it doesn't change much for us.
Thank you, Brian. We hope you enjoyed our show. This is Watching Washington. I'm Gabriella Chu. Have a good day.